The stars over Kepri Station were calm the night the Dominion came. From the vast viewport of the orbital's central ring, Captain Marcus Vera watched the slow swirl of nebular gas drift like bruised clouds across the void. He had been raised on Kepri, a second-generation colonist, his earliest memories shaped by the station's corridors, its hydroponic bays, its hum of recycled air. To him, the stars had always been a promise, not a threat. That changed when the sky tore open. A ripple of distorted light cascaded across the nebula, a wound blooming in the void. Marcus had seen recordings of jump drives, the arcs of light as human vessels slipped through folded space. This was different. The rupture was wider, darker, and wrong, as though the cosmos itself flinched at what pushed through. First came the scouts, crescent-shaped vessels of black alloy that drank starlight, gliding into real space like predators slipping into shallow water. Then came the carriers, leviathans bristling with spines, their hulls etched in geometric scars that glowed faintly red. Finally, the dreadnought emerged, its hull kilometers long, a city of war adrift. Its shadow alone blotted the stars. The station's alarms screamed. Marcus's comm crackled. Unidentified fleet inbound, all defense squadrons scramble, civilian sectors to shelters. Repeat, this is not a drill. He ran, boots pounding the deck, pushing through crowds of colonists streaming towards sealed bulkheads. Children cried, clutching stuffed toys. Men and women shoved, terrified. As the reality sank in, this was no exercise. When Marcus reached the defense hangar, the bay doors were already opening. Human fighters launched like sparks from tinder-sleek craft armed with rail cannons and plasma lances. Against pirates or even rival human colonies, they were formidable. Against this, Marcus's gut told him it would not be enough. And then the voice came, not through the station's comm system, not through sound. It pressed into the mind like a weight, cold and cruel. We are the Dominion. This system belongs to us. You will surrender. Those who kneel will live. Those who resist will serve in agony. Such is the order of the stars. Marcus staggered, clutching his helmet. The words were not language, but something deeper, forcing themselves into thought. Around him, soldiers cried out, some dropping weapons, blood trickling from noses. But Marcus clenched his jaw and spat on the deck. To hell with you. The battle began. Human ships darted forward, cannons blazing. Bright spears of plasma cut across the void, slamming into the crescent ships. One Dominion vessel exploded, shattered into fragments. The defenders cheered until the rest of the alien fleet moved. The crescent ships shifted in eerie unison, their hulls warping as crimson energy coursed across them. They unleashed beams of raw force that scythed through human fighters, dozens at a time. Men and women Marcus had trained with vanished in fire, their vessels atomized. The carriers opened like monstrous flowers, releasing swarms of smaller drones, machines with hooked talons, shrieking through vacuum as they descended on the station itself. Kepri's defense turrets fired back, walls of flak bursting in brilliant storms, tearing many drones apart. But more slipped through, smashing into the hull, cutting into airlocks, forcing their way inside. Marcus slammed his helmet on, sealing the visor, and drew his rifle from the rack. The comm filled with frantic chatter. Sector 12 breached. We need reinforcements in hydroponics. They're inside medical. The Dominion had come not to conquer gently, but to crush, to demonstrate, to burn the will from humanity in its very first meeting. Marcus Vera swore it would not be that simple. Far above the battlefield, on the command deck of the dreadnought, Overlord Kaish stood at the heart of a chamber lined with black crystal. The alien's form was tall and skeletal, his armor fused into flesh, his forearms ending in talons of gleaming obsidian. His eyes burned with inner light. He looked upon the battle as one might gaze at insects scattering before flame. Resistance, Kaish murmured, his voice resonant. Primitive courage, pointless. A subordinate knelt at the base of the throne, head bowed low. Overlord, the human defenders refuse surrender. Of course they refuse, Kaish said, his lips peeled back in something like a smile. They are unblooded. They still believe themselves free. They have yet to learn despair. We shall teach them. His talons curled into a fist. Across the void, the dreadnought's main cannon ignited, a storm of annihilation building at its core. On Kepri Station, alarms shrieked as the cannon's charge was detected. Marcus froze in mid-corridor as the warning came through. Main weapon lock. Impact imminent. Brace. The cannon fired. A beam of incandescent destruction lanced forth, striking Kepri Station across its central spine. Metal vaporized. Pressure domes shattered. Thousands died in an instant as the station split, entire sectors blown into the void. Marcus was thrown from his feet, slammed against a bulkhead, his visor cracking. Fire roared down the passage as atmosphere vented. He crawled, dragging himself through smoke and debris, vision blurring. His comms screamed with voices cut off in static one by one. When he pulled himself into a half-collapsed shelter, bodies strewn around him, he realized with horror that the station was dying. But he was alive, and he swore, gasping in pain, that this would not be the end. Humanity would not kneel. Chapter 3, Fire over Kepri Station. The battle lasted only hours. By dawn's light, the once glittering orbital was a carcass of twisted metal adrift in space, its wreckage glowing with embers. Survivors clustered in broken hulls, hunted by drones. Ships that tried to flee were annihilated by the Dominion fleet. And then, as suddenly as they had come, the aliens ceased fire. Overlord Kaesh had no interest in wiping the species out entirely. That was not the way of the Dominion. Slaves must remain to serve, rebels to break, an example to spread. Humanity would live, yes, but on its knees. Kaesh's final message echoed across the wreckage: "You have been tested. You are found wanting. Kneel and you will live. Resist and you will burn. This is the decree of the Dominion." The fleet departed, leaving devastation in its wake. But scattered survivors drifted in the ruins, clinging to life. And among them was Marcus Vera, bruised, burned, and broken, but unyielding. He stared at the fading stars where the enemy had vanished and whispered through bloodied lips, "They think we'll kneel. Let's prove them wrong." Admiral Selene Draven had been a soldier too long to be surprised by cruelty. She had fought pirate lords, rebel colonies, even rival human fleets. She had seen men cut each other down for water and air. But when the reports of Kepri reached her fleet, she felt something she had not felt in decades. Rage. The Dominion had not only destroyed Kepri, they had broadcast it across the human network. Every world, every outpost, had seen the annihilation, the arrogance, the demand to kneel. It was meant to break them. Instead, it lit a fire. Selene stood in the war room aboard her flagship, the Resolute, as officers crowded around the hollow table. Red icons marked destroyed colonies. Blue represented the remnants of human fleets. The disparity was staggering. "We cannot match their numbers," her second-in-command said quietly, "or their firepower. They destroyed Kepri in hours." Selene's dark eyes hardened. "Then we do not fight them where they are strong. We fight where they are weak." "And where is that, Admiral?" She touched the table, magnifying the map until the Dominion's vast territory sprawled before them, systems upon systems, enslaved and shackled. Countless alien species bound under the Overlord's rule. "There," she said, "they believe the galaxy belongs to them. But every empire believes itself eternal until someone proves otherwise. If humanity cannot match their strength, we will remind the galaxy of their arrogance." The officers stared. "You mean—" "Yes," Selene's voice was ice. "We start a war of rebellion, not just for us, for all who suffer under them. If we are to burn, let us burn as a spark that ignites the stars." The transport groaned as it cut through atmosphere, its battered hull rattling under stress. Marcus sat strapped in, visor off now, his face smeared with soot and blood. Around him, survivors from Kepri clutched weapons scavenged from wreckage. Some wore uniforms, many did not. They were colonists, engineers, medics, whoever had lived through the first onslaught, and they were heading into war. The Dominion had left garrisons on the surface of Kepri's colony world below, enslaving survivors, stripping resources, stamping their brand into human soil. Marcus had sworn that he would not allow them to solidify their grip. The pilot's voice crackled. Coming down near Grid 6, Dominion patrols reported, but resistance cells say we've got cover in the ruins. The transport jolted as it cut low through smoke-filled skies. Below, the colony burned. Cities lay in shattered husks, skyscrapers torn open, rivers choked with ash. Dominion constructs patrolled the streets, bipedal machines with insectoid forms, their arms ending in searing blades of plasma. Marcus checked his rifle. The weapon was old, patched together after the station's fall. But it fired true. He closed his eyes, remembering the last thing he had seen before blacking out on the station, the Dominion fleet leaving, after killing thousands, after daring to tell humanity to kneel. "Not today," he whispered. The transport landed hard, rear doors slamming open. Smoke and fire poured inside as the survivors charged out, rifles raised, voices hoarse from rage. Marcus led them, boots pounding through the ash, into the ruins of his world. The first clash came fast. Dominion patrols turned their gleaming heads as the humans burst from cover, weapons spitting fire. Energy bolts ripped through the air, searing walls, blasting stone. One human went down, chest burned through. Another kept firing even as a beam took his arm. Marcus leapt from cover, his rifle's rail slugs hammering into a Dominion drone, cracking its alloy chest. Sparks exploded as the machine fell, legs thrashing before going still. He tore a plasma blade from its remains, swinging it into the next, carving it open with a burst of molten light. The survivors rallied behind him. Shouts filled the ruins. Dominion patrols fell back under the unexpected ferocity, their unity shaken. For the first time since the invasion began, humans were pushing forward. By nightfall, Marcus and his ragged band had taken an entire district back from the Dominion. The ruins still burned, but their flag, human, tattered and scorched, flew again above the shattered rooftops. It was a small victory, insignificant in the scale of a galactic empire, but it mattered. For every survivor who saw that flag, for every enslaved colonist who whispered that the Dominion could be resisted, it mattered. And Marcus Vera swore he would never stop. The Dominion did not rule by fleets alone. They ruled by fear. For centuries, they had enslaved world after world, bending species to their will. Leora had lived all her life under their chains. She was born on Ashari Prime, once a jewel of culture, now a mining world stripped bare. Her people, the Ashari, were lithe and silver-skinned, their voices once raised in song, but under Dominion lash, their songs had turned to silence. Leora remembered the first time she saw a Dominion enforcer drag her father away. He had spoken against attacks too loudly. His screams had echoed for hours before fading. Her mother had told her to forget. Leora never had. Now she knelt in the dirt of the mining camp, shackles biting into her wrists, as a Dominion overseer strode past. The creature's voice pressed into her mind like cold knives. "Work. Obey, you live because we allow it. You die when we decide." But when night came and the overseers retreated to their fortress, Leora whispered to others in the shadows. "Have you heard of them?" she asked softly. "The humans, a young species, they fought back. They refused to kneel." The others shook their heads in fear. "Be silent. If they hear," but Leora leaned closer, her eyes burning. "Hope spreads. Even here, I will not die in chains." It was a dangerous thought, but it was one she clung to like fire in the cold. And when she finally escaped, when fate crossed her path with Marcus Vera and Admiral Selene Draven, Leora would prove that hope could become a weapon. The first meeting took place on a barren moon, its surface cracked and scorched, its sky dim under a dying sun. Selene Draven stood in the center of a cavern where torches flickered against stone. Around her gathered not only human survivors, but emissaries of other species long broken under the Dominion's rule. Some came in secret, risking death. Some came in chains, escorted by guards who believed they were loyal. All came with one question: was the rumor true? Were the humans truly fighting back? Selene looked them in the eyes, eyes of scales, fur, silver and flame, and said the words she knew would bind them. "Yes, we fight, we bleed, we die, but we do not kneel. Join us, and together we will bring the Dominion to ash." A murmur spread through the cavern, fear warred with hope. Some shook their heads, convinced such defiance was impossible, but others clenched fists, raised voices, whispered oaths. Leora stood among them, chains still dangling from her wrists, and spoke with a voice that cut through the doubt. I was born in their cages. I watched my father die under their lash. I believed the Dominion eternal. But I have seen humans fight, and I tell you this, they are the spark the galaxy has waited for. If we do not rise now, then when? If we do not fight together, then we die alone. The chamber thundered with cries of defiance, and in that moment, the first true alliance against the Dominion was born. It began with whispers, small bands of rebels striking Dominion outposts. Slave camps freed in the night, carriers ambushed, patrols annihilated, fortresses burned. The Dominion laughed at first, dismissing it as rabble, but the fires spread. Human ingenuity, alien courage, desperation, and fury combined. The rebels fought not as an empire, not as a fleet, but as scattered sparks burning too fast to be extinguished. Selene Draven led the fleet, striking from shadows, turning Dominion arrogance into weakness. Marcus Vera carved battle lines on the ground, proving that even soldiers with nothing left could defeat giants. And Leora spoke to every freed slave, every fearful ally, turning their despair into war cries. At last, the galaxy was stirring, but Overlord Kaish was not blind. From the throne world of Vathar, he watched the rebellion grow. His talons drummed against his throne, his burning eyes narrowing. Enough, he whispered. The fire must be crushed before it spreads further. And he unleashed the Harbinger fleet. The Harbinger fleet descended like a storm of fire across the outer colonies. It was not a defensive fleet, not a garrison of control. It was punishment incarnate. These vessels were larger than anything humanity had yet faced, their hulls carved with runes that pulsed like veins of blood. Each ship carried weapons meant not only to kill, but to erase, to burn entire ecosystems from orbit and leave planets barren. The Dominion wanted to end the rebellion before it became a war. But when the Harbinger fleet reached its first target, it found something waiting. Not silence, not surrender, songs. In the mountains of Naris IV, where colonists had built homes from stone and steel, the people gathered. They sang as the sky burned, their voices rising through comms, through open channels, broadcast to every world that would hear. They sang the anthem of a species too young to know despair, too reckless to accept defeat. The words were simple, defiant, human. Marcus Vera stood among them, rifle in hand, voice ragged as he joined the chorus. He had fought battles in blood and ash, but this was different. This was a declaration, a challenge hurled into the stars. We are here, we will not kneel. When the Harbinger vessels descended, they found not scattered slaves, but organized resistance. Railguns hidden in mountainsides erupted with fire. Fighters screamed up from canyons. Allied species who had once cowered in silence now fought beside humans, their rage long buried but not forgotten. The Battle of Naris IV became legend. It was not won easily. Cities were reduced to rubble. Skies turned black. But when the Dominion's flagships finally broke under relentless assault, when their hulks crashed into the sea, the galaxy knew the impossible had happened. The Harbingers had been bloodied, and the songs of defiance echoed louder than ever. The war spread, from one world to 10, from 10 to 100. Each battle lit another fire. Each fire drew more allies. Humanity had become the heart of something greater than itself, a storm of rebellion that threatened to shake the Dominion's foundations. But the Harbinger fleet was not yet defeated. On the edge of the Veil Nebula, Admiral Selene Draven led the Resolute and its battered fleet into the teeth of the enemy. Dominion vessels filled the void, their black hulls glowing with crimson scars, their weapons tearing through space. Selene stood at the command table, her officers shouting updates. Shields failing, enemy drones breaching the lower decks. We've lost the Valiant. Selene's hands clenched behind her back. The situation was dire, but she did not flinch. Hold the line, she ordered. Every second we fight buys another world a chance to rise. The Dominion came like a tide, but Selene was no stranger to tides. She knew how to break them, how to turn fury into trap. Signal Marcus on the surface, she snapped. Now, on the ground below, Marcus Vera led his forces through shattered ruins, drawing Dominion troops into narrow streets where numbers counted for less. His voice crackled over comms. "Ready when you are, Admiral," Selene gave the order. At once, hidden charges planted in the asteroid belt ignited. Chunks of rock the size of mountains exploded, tearing through Dominion formations. Vessels shattered under the sudden storm. "Now," Selene cried. The Resolute and its fleet surged forward, guns blazing, carving through the fractured Harbinger line. Marcus's troops struck from below, seizing Dominion strongholds as the fleet above burned. When dawn rose over the nebula, it was the Dominion, not humanity, that retreated. The Harbingers had lost another battle, but victory came at a price. Selene walked the ruined decks of the Resolute, past bodies shrouded in flags, past wounded begging for water. Her fleet was bleeding out, and she knew it. This was a war they could win only if they endured the long night ahead. Not all allies were flesh and blood. In the dark between stars, where light itself seemed to die, Selene encountered them, beings of machine and thought, remnants of an age older than the Dominion itself. They called themselves the Chorus of Shadows. Vast constructs drifted in the void, their voices resonating through static and song. They had watched empires rise and fall. They had seen the Dominion's birth, its rise from a single tyrant's ambition into a galactic plague. "We have witnessed countless rebellions crushed," the chorus intoned, "but never one led by your kind. Humanity is reckless, irregular. You do not think as others do. That is why you may succeed." Selene stood on the command deck, listening as the chorus offered more than words. They offered knowledge, star charts of hidden routes, the weaknesses of Dominion warforms, the history of rebellions past. But knowledge came at a price. "You will fight not only the Dominion," the chorus warned, "but yourselves. Unity will falter, trust will break. If you cannot endure each other, you cannot endure the Overlord." Selene's jaw tightened. "Then we will endure." The chorus fell silent, their great ships vanishing back into shadow, and Selene knew the war had entered a darker chapter. It began with whispers in the fleet, supplies missing, ships refusing orders, officers questioning Selene's leadership. Humanity was not united. Some believed the cost was too high, that survival meant surrender. Others, corrupted by Dominion promises, began to send messages in secret. On the ice world of Varak, where rebels had gathered, the betrayal struck. Dominion ships arrived not by chance, but guided. Camps burned. Thousands died before Selene could rally the fleet. And when the traitors were unmasked, it cut deeper than any blade. They were not strangers. They were men and women Selene had fought beside. Captains who had sworn loyalty, survivors of Kepri itself. The Dominion had found the cracks and widened them. Selene ordered executions, her heart heavy but unbroken. "If we fall to division," she told her officers, "then Chaos has already won. We bleed, we suffer, but we remain one." Marcus Vera stood beside her, his rifle still stained from Varak's snow. "Then we remind the galaxy why we fight. Not for survival, for freedom." Leora stepped forward, her chains finally broken, her voice carrying through the fleet. "The Dominion fears us because we are no longer alone. We are many, and we are not afraid." Her words spread through the fleet, through every rebel camp, every broadcast channel, and from the ashes of betrayal, resolve hardened into steel. The long night would end. The rebellion became an uprising. Worlds once silent now roared with defiance. Slaves broke their chains. Species long crushed by fear took up arms. Humanity's fleets, scarred but unyielding, led the charge. Overlord Kaesh felt the tide turning. His throne world of Vathar, once untouchable, now stood as the symbol that must not fall. He summoned every fleet, every legion, to defend it. Selene Draven summoned something greater, the March of the Free. Across the galaxy, vessels of every shape and size answered her call. Human warships, Ashari skiffs, rebel carriers, even chorus constructs drifting from the dark. They came not as subjects, but as equals, united by a single purpose, to end the Dominion. The fleet stretched across the stars, a living constellation of defiance. Selene stood before them on the bridge of the Resolute, her voice carried across channels to billions. Today we do not fight for one world or one people, we fight for all. The Dominion believes it is eternal. Today we prove them wrong. Today we tear down their throne and show the galaxy that no tyrant lasts forever. March with me and let this dawn be our final one, not of despair, but of freedom. The fleet thundered with voices, with engines, with the roar of 1,000 species united. The march of the free began. The battle for Vathar shook the galaxy. The Dominion fleet encircled the world like a wall of steel, its weapons blazing with crimson fire. The rebels struck like a hammer, slamming into their defenses with fury born of centuries of suffering. The sky became a storm. Vessels shattered, fire raining down through atmosphere. On the surface, Marcus Vera led soldiers through burning cities, tearing down the Overlord's temples, freeing prisoners by the thousands. Selene's flagship dueled the Dominion dreadnought, the same vessel that had destroyed Kepri. Its cannon charged, preparing to fire once more. Selene clenched her jaw, refusing to watch another world burn. "Target their core," she ordered. "All power to the railguns." The Resolute shuddered as its final volley roared forth. Slugs tore through the dreadnought's cannon just as it fired. The weapon imploded, ripping the ship apart in a cataclysm of light. Cheers erupted across the fleet, but the battle was not done. In the throne chamber Vathar, Overlord Kaish waited, his talons dripping with the blood of those who had dared reach him. His burning eyes fixed on the intruders who finally breached his gates, Marcus Vera, Selene Draven, and Leora. "You dare," Kaish hissed, his voice shaking the chamber. "You insects dare challenge eternity?" Marcus raised his rifle. "We dare." The battle with Kaish was brutal. His strength was inhuman, his power fueled by centuries of domination. But together, humanity and its allies fought as one. Selene's blade struck deep. Marcus's rifle thundered. Leora's voice, echoing through comms, rallied every soldier outside the gates. For freedom, for all who suffered, for the dawn. And at last, Kaish fell. The Overlord's body crumpled to the floor, his burning eyes fading. The Dominion was broken. Silence fell across Vathar. Then came the roar not of weapons, but of voices, billions strong. Across the galaxy, chains shattered. Flags of rebellion rose. Worlds once crushed lifted their heads to a sky free of fear. Selene Draven stood on the balcony of the ruined palace, gazing at the horizon where dawn broke golden over the city. Marcus Vera stood beside her, his rifle finally at rest. Leora knelt, lifting her broken chains high for all to see. "This is only the beginning," Selene said quietly. "The Dominion is gone. But freedom must be built, not just won." Marcus nodded. "Then let's build it." The chorus of shadows whispered from the void. "The galaxy turns. Another empire has fallen, but this time, perhaps something new will rise." And as dawn light spilled across Vathar, as ships filled the sky with songs of victory, humanity stood not as conquerors, not as slaves, but as a people who had defied eternity itself. The Dominion was ash, and from those ashes, stars of freedom were born.